Amazing. So my name is Vanessa, and as I was saying earlier, before we hit record, I'm tapped into a lot of different areas right now. So hard to explain, and I need to get better at narrowing in on one thing, but I'm really focused in the youth physical activity and sport space with an emphasis on body image and specifically focus on girls right now. But super grateful to be helping lead a Canadian-wide initiative called the ReThink Sport Project. And through that, I also get to focus on body image. We have different subgroups that we're focused on, and there's different phases, and it's spanning 8 years. So a lot of moving parts. So yeah, I guess that's what I am doing right now. But ever since I was little, my parents always instilled in me, and it's so interesting that we're focused on the humanity aspect, and a lot of my work is focused in that regard. So it's super interesting, but my parents had always really instilled character. They would throw around the word character, but really in that humanity lens of character is, the way that you are towards people who can do nothing for you, or it's who you are in the dark. And I think that really does tap into humanity. And so I think that's what I've always taken forward with me. And then I've had the privilege of working with a life coach the past 4 or 5 years, I would say. And one of the first things she got me to do was write out 10 values. And then we worked on sort of refining those values within character, but not along the lines of the virtues that you've introduced me to through Virtuosity. So that was, I guess, kind of informally bringing that into my day-to-day. And then, I guess once we got introduced to each other through the kinesiology leadership class, I was really able to learn more, but not, I guess, in the way that now I have been able to practice it daily with your app. Honestly, I am like a huge lover and I'm obsessed with self-development. So anything that I can do on the daily to kind of add to my habit stacking routine to strengthen the way that I am personally and professionally is like, I love, and I want to continue to do everything that I possibly can to become the best version of myself. But I think for me, I'm so early into my career. Like I'm now 8 months into this position where I've kind of been thrown into it because it's so new to all of us. So I'm having to kind of maneuver in other ways and that I'm not used to, and having to lead people who have more experience than I do, but then also I guess just navigating it on a personal level too. It's a lot. And I think I was really excited when you invited me to join the program because I thought it was a perfect time to work on those aspects that I need to strengthen, and then also work on balancing those aspects of mine that are maybe showing up very strong and they, need to balance out. Yeah. So honestly, the universe has just been so crazy. There's been so many synergies, and I think this month was super crucial for me. I don't think I can say it properly, Magnanimous. But I was really interested, honestly, because I could not pronounce the word, still can't, so no. But when I did some background kind of digging into it around the app, I was just like, okay, I really need to narrow in on this. And I love that each week, it kind of becomes more in depth in the way that we're able to practice it day to day. And a bit of a background, well, actually, no, I'll start with one of the exercises was to do something nice for a stranger, and then I had to do something nice for a colleague. And I love little acts of kindness, and those pieces are also embedded in the self-compassion work that I get to do and the programming that I get to do. But I myself had kind of come away from the big impact pieces that I've been part of. So when the past few years I've been able to run wellness sessions weekly with little girls in underprivileged schools, and as much as they learned so much and grew as girls by the end of the program, I also grew so much and learned so much from them. And it was bringing this whole other aspect and just fulfilling my soul in a way that I didn't realize. And me fully transitioning to Toronto, I am now transitioning into the Toronto agency. So I've been on pause. So I wasn't able to do those weekly sessions. And I was really recognizing that it's those acts of kindness or those forgiving pieces or that just compassion that I guess is all embedded within the humanity virtue that I wasn't having as much as I was used to. And I think that part was unfulfilled in my day-to-day because I've just been so driven into what I've been doing and obviously tried to keep compassion at the forefront. But yeah, just that act of being able to really give my time and myself to those little girls was something that so then I guess it inspired me. I was telling you in our last session with everyone that I was able to help run some affirmations with Fast and Female with Girl Guides. So I'm like, okay, I need to get back to that until I can get into my weekly sessions. Yeah, well, I think, humanity, like, compassion being a part of that virtue is huge. But when I think, body image as a whole, there's so much to unpack. And I know later we might be able to get into the specifics of just the relationship between character and body image and, positive affect and negative affect and all of that stuff. But specific to self-compassion, there's 3 pillars. So there's self-kindness, mindfulness, and common humanity. And they all work together to bring about this compassionate self. So bringing that compassion inwards, I like to think about it of the science of being kind to yourself. And I guess just through the virtue of humanity, and someone, I can't remember who was talking about it in our session, but once he had learned a bit more about self-compassion, he said, oh yeah, like my, baseline level had changed he saw the change in his baseline level after being more compassionate to himself, and he was able to then strengthen these other virtues the more that he came inwards and was able to be mindful and kind to himself and recognize that, we're not perfect, we're human, we all have flaws. But we can really turn inwards and be kind to ourselves in that regard. And this always is so interesting to me too, because people think it has to be self-love, and it's not. And then you think of humanity and it's like, okay, you're not going to be so kind and so nice every single minute of the day. And that's the same thing with self-compassion, and why I really have held on to it in my research is you're not going to love every single aspect of yourself. And that's where the compassion comes in. We can be kind towards those aspects that we don't like, and then we can sort of bring in that fierce self-compassion where it's that action into then moving those pillars forward in our life so we can be more present and aware, and then be able to navigate and be flexible in the way that these virtues may be coming in and out of our day-to-day. Well, first, to answer that first part, I think the behavioral forecasting has honestly been probably the most helpful. Everything's been so helpful, but in regard to all of the sessions, I think that activity was just super helpful. And it came at a time where I was just in this stalling area where I needed to navigate some, certain people and certain not issues, but just navigation pieces that I needed to make in my day-to-day. And I think it just brought me back to, and I literally had, thought of this like one particular person, and I know it's perception, so it's not obviously going to be how they're fully showing up with these virtues in their life. But then I drew out the circles, and I was like, okay, their drive right now is smaller than mine. So I think that's where I, the work isn't being moved forward in the way that I want to see it right now, but I need to then bring in that humanity aspect, or I also need to bring in back to my calm and recognize that, okay, this person, I know they've expressed to me that they're dealing with this on the outside, so I'm going to recognize that we're all human, there's things that are going to be happening, and if I can work around some time frame or some timeline that is then going to give them the leeway to deal with what they need to deal with in their life, I'm going to be better off for it. And, I'd kind of thought about it, but I think when there's so many moving parts and so many things happening, you don't always go to putting yourself in their shoes as much as, we maybe should. So that was just a really good activity. And I definitely think moving forward, I will definitely just keep that in mind, because it takes you out of, what you're thinking is going on, and it really puts you into this whole different mindset. Yeah, well, I think I go back to the brainstorming list that we had kind of come up with, or you had mostly come up with some synergies that you would maybe see with body image and character. I see it overlapping in so many different ways as far as the actual construct of body image and character, and the way that, character affects your mood, and also body image affects your mood. So I see just the synergies in the way that those two work together. But then even more broadly, this project working to rebuild the youth sports system in Canada, we're hoping to develop programs for coaches, athletes, parents, sport personnel, and character really is at the core of who all of us are showing up. So I just had a click in my head, thinking of even just the body image program that we've been developing the past little while, is if we're not considering how these people actually show up and the way that they think about these different virtues, or the way that they show up in their coaching styles, or even what we just talked about with that humanity aspect, or more so that empathy aspect of what maybe athletes are going through. And with body image issues, if a coach doesn't fully understand, that this could be happening, or he doesn't recognize that these athletes are going through this, then that body image coaching it's going to get thrown out the window if they can't come to themselves and recognize that they maybe need to strengthen this virtue in order to show up in the way that they might need to. So I really think there's so many synergies on a broader level. But then going back to the intricacy of body image, there's so many different components, affective, cognitive, behavioral, the way that, you think others perceive yourself, the way that you show up in the world. There's so much tied to body image. And I think of drive, for example. I think drive can have a lot of tendencies to lead to perfectionism. And when it comes to body image, if you have perfectionism tendencies, or you're always driving for the next best thing, then you may not be satisfied. So you may not feel good about your body, and you may be always trying to maneuver or manipulate your body in different ways so that it can meet your standards, but then never being satisfied at the end of that. And then that's where we see things leading to, eating disorders, an emphasis then on, exercising to the max and putting your body in danger by not coming back to that mindful component, or that self-compassion component of recognizing that, I can accept where I'm at, and I can have that fierce self-compassion to take that action into still continuing to move my body, but just coming back to that mindful awareness of how my body feels. So it's almost like getting out of your head and coming into your body. And I think that can be really tough if, certain virtues are stronger than maybe those other virtues. Another thing that has been really cool, and it's been kind of confirming in the way that I would like to see character, or something that helps me, is the music aspect. I love that there is the music playlist, and something that has gotten me through a lot of, I guess, murky waters, whether it be in my personal life or my professional life, is coming back to these songs that just mean so much. Like for me, soccer was like my life, and I still love it so much. But the World Cup songs, they also speak to the humanity aspect. Like, Pitbull has a few, Shakira does, but when you actually listen to the words, it's really about bringing people together through the power of sport and through the beauty of sport. And it's so crazy how music can elicit those certain virtues. Or even one song, just the way that the world is right now, I love listening to Where Is the Love, and that humanity aspect of listening to the way that we need to all come together to make real world change. But then it also elicits my drive, because then I'm so driven in my day-to-day to have that impact in whatever initiative I'm focused on right now. So yeah, that's fun.